last time we stopped by verse number 115 of Surat Taha. So I'll proceed. As normal, we begin with the Quran recitation. In our rough translation, then we open the floor. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولقد عهدنا إلى آدم من قبل فنسي ولم نجد له عزما وإذ قلنا للملائكة اسجدوا لآدم فسجدوا إلا إبليس أبى فقلنا يا آدم إن هذا عدو لك ولزوجك فلا يخرجنكما من الجنة فتشقى إن لك ألا تجوع فيها ولا تعرى وأنك لا تظمأ فيها ولا تضحى فوسوس إليه الشيطان قال يا آدم هل أدلك على شجرة الخلد وملك لا يبلى فأكلا منها فبدت لهما سوآتهما وطفقا يخصفان عليهما من ورق الجنة وعصى آدم ربه فغوى ثم اجتباه ربه فتاب عليه وهدى قال اهبطا منها جميعا بعضكم لبعض عدو فإما يأتينكم مني هدى فمن اتبع هداي فلا يضل ولا يشقى ومن أعرض عن ذكري فإن له معيشة ضنكا ونحشره يوم القيامة أعمى قال رب لم حشرتني أعمى وقد كنت بصيرا قال كذلك أتتك آياتنا فنسيتها وكذلك اليوم تنسى وكذلك نجزي من أسرف ولم يؤمن بآيات ربه ولعذاب الآخرة أشد وأبقى. We entrusted Adam earlier, but he forgot. وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا, and we did not, and he was not found to be of good resolve or determination. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى. When we said to the angels, submit to Adam, they did, excepting Iblis. He refused. We said, Ya Adam, inna hada aduwwun laka wa zawjik. This is indeed your enemy and your wife's enemy. Don't let him get you or drive you out of the garden. Otherwise you will lead a miserable life. In this garden, you are guaranteed that you will never go hungry. You will never go naked. You will never go thirsty. You will never suffer the heat of the sun. But the shaitan whispered to them. He said, Ya Adam, shall I show you the tree of immortality that will give you a control or a kingdom that never comes to an end? They both ate from it. Immediately, the private parts became visible to them, and they quickly started to cover them with the leaves of the trees of the garden. Adam disobeyed his Lord, and he consequently was led astray. But Allah brought him back closer to him, accepted his repentance, and guided him. And he said, get out of the garden as each other's enemies. But whoever follows my guidance when it comes to you, They will never go astray, nor will be touched, nor will they be touched by misery. Whoever turns away from it, from this guidance, will have a life of great hardship. He will be brought on the day of judgment in a state of blindness, saying, "O my Lord, how did you bring me? How did you resurrect me blind when I was sighted in my life?" Allah will say, "This is it. You ignored our revelation when it came to you. Today you will be ignored equally." This is how we reward those who go too far and who do not believe in the revelation of the Lord. وَلَعَذَابُ the Lord, وَلَعَذَابُ الْآخِرَةِ أَشَدُّ وَأَبْقَى. The punishment that awaits in the hereafter is even more enduring and more severe. We'll have a minute or two for silent reflection, again with the question of what is one single word or one sentence or one verse that captured your attention?
شجرة خلد وملك لا يبلى.
شجرة الخلد وملك لا يبلى.
فلا يضل ولا يشقى.
You haven't had a Quran to look at, right?
No.
It's fine. Are you a resident or a visitor? Or
Yeah, which is visitor.
where are you from?
Coventry. Coventry.
Coventry.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Ahmed.
Nice to meet you, Ahmed. So,
حشرتني أعمى وقد كنت بصير.
They became conscious of their nakedness and began to cover themselves with leaves from the garden.
Allah choices. Did you manage?
قال كذلك أتتك آياتنا فنسيتها.
The passage is so rich. Perhaps I can pick تجسد ونسي. Time for justification.
So,
Why?
I'm not sure what specifically it was, just the promise itself is quite big and it just stood out to me.
شجرة الخلد وملك لا يبلى.
Yeah, it's the bit where it's like
Mm.
eternal, not city, what was the translation again? The tree of eternal life.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big promise.
Yeah.
Is this what did it capture attention because it's too big, or what is at stake here?
That's what I'm not sure about. It captured my attention. I'm not sure exactly why. Just the fact that it was just such a big,
I see what you mean.
like.
I mean,
promise.
it reflects literally the human condition.
Yeah.
And our longing to eternality, and to even within this very life, you will always find people looking for permanent positions. I'm looking for a permanent job. So it's a human condition everywhere. And imagine if someone comes to Adam alayhi salam, who is living a conditional life. Allah is telling him, you have a condition here, the condition that you don't eat from this tree. I'm moving you from a conditional life to an unconditional life. That it has a control that never ends. Yeah. So it's literally the human condition. He is promising him with really some of the essential stuff about the human nature. The permanent, that our pursuit for permanency. So when you graduate and you start looking for jobs, you know what I'm looking about. Yeah, I'm looking for a permanent position.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. But that's what. No, not me. I mean, it's a real thing. It's so real. Yeah.
The fact that he was in paradise, but was still looking for more, if that makes sense. When he was promised more, he still wanted more. It's just like an interesting.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
Iblis knew how to really come to Adam alayhi salam. He is, he wouldn't come to you. Iblis wouldn't tempt you with vice, as in we have a concept of vice versus virtue. So sometimes people get tempted by vice, but it's a very tiny minority of people, that the people that love evil, which is not really the human condition. People can be tempted through virtues, really. So he's being promised with eternal life, a life that has no conditions attached to it. At essence, there is no, there is nothing wrong with these things. That's why Adam alayhi salam thought, actually this adds to what I have. What I have is limited in the sense that it's conditional. What I'm being promised with is something that is unconditional. So I think it's a very logical type of temptation.
No, definitely.
So for example, now we have a conditional offer from university. Wouldn't you want to have an unconditional offer?
He has an unconditional.
Wallah,
That's,
okay,
that's the
mashallah.
thing. I was going to say that's why it grabbed his eyes.
I see.
Jama'at
So,
al-Khulud.
so you don't feel, now I understand why you don't feel the urge. Yeah. You have it.
Exactly.
Okay.
But it reflects on the human nature, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Was the main bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. But remember when we had this conversation about the magicians with Fir'aun and the fact that he accepted the faith in Allah, and they did mention the permanency thing, like looking for something that is permanent as well. إنما تقضي هذه الحياة الدنيا. They are telling Fir'aun what you are ending is this life, that this transient life. It's not a permanent life. who are looking for permanency. It's literally part of the human condition, deeply seated in our nature, looking for permanency.
I was thinking about the fact
And yet,
that-
subhanAllah, when we get this permanence thing, we start to get fed up with it. That's another thing about the human nature. It's the human restlessness. Well, I'm not restless, so you always want change, and that's why there is, we love drama as well. Otherwise, if everything goes according to expectations, no, you don't like that. We live on drama. But thank you for that. حافظ. فلا يضل ولا يشقى.
فلا يضل ولا يشقى. Somehow the repetitive or the repeat of yashqa to us after Adam has come down, just the word, the vocab to use yashqa when it's talking to us about how it's a consequence to what be our actions. This is the same word that is used earlier to Adam in the beginning of his test in paradise, right? Where Allah says, فَلَا يَخْرُجَنَّكُمَا مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ فَتَشْقَى. It almost made me feel like Adam and Eve being a picture of possibly our life, or almost a boot camp or a training session before real life came into being, in which the same cycle of shaitan being there and the need to be in remembrance and to not forget al-nasi wal-azm, that it's the same to Adam before he fell down, and now it's ours, as in the similarity between what happened to us in this life and what was with Adam in heaven. The idea that if you do forget, then you will suffer fatashqa. The use of the same word made that link for me.
How did you move the conversation to us? I mean, I don't think, what is that, the linguistic clue?
Oh,
what does it say it's us also? Oh, do you mean at the end of the passage?
Yes, the beginning it says مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ فَتَشْقَى, and then when it talks about us, it says فَلَا يَضُلُّ وَلَا يَشْقَى.
Oh, I see.
So
interesting.
That's
Thank
reflection.
You so much. Thank you so much. The beginning and the end of the passage, absolutely. I didn't think of this, to be honest. Okay, interesting. Absolutely. The Quran always universalizes, as in takes out of a specific case something that is applicable to everyone. So it's not just about Adam, but as we just mentioned, it's about the human condition. We have something that Adam has. He is our father, our great grandfather. So we go back to him in so many ways. When I thought, the first thing that came to my mind when I looked at لا يضل ولا يشقى, يضل, I often, it's often linked with the spiritual state of the people. So if you follow the guidance that Allah provides, you will spiritually be fulfilled. لن تضل spiritually. الشقاء is more physical. You will not have a hard life in terms of provision, security, and these things. Like an embodiment of this is in Surah Al-Nahl. من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. So sometimes people really lapse into this type of thinking. As a believer, you would enjoy a good life only in the hereafter, but in this life, you are just getting tested. Actually, the Quran does not say that. The Quran is saying literally, if you are a believer, you believe in Allah, you do good, you will see this here before the hereafter. So you won't لا تضل ولا تشقى. In terms of spirituality, you will have a lot of meanings. You will lead a meaningful life. But at the very same time, it's a life that is, in terms of provision, it's also abundant. I've never seen someone like who's a good believer and who acts righteously. I've never seen someone like that who's leading a bad life in terms of provision. So in both ways, actually, spiritually, physically, and metaphysically, in both ways. And that's what the Quran says literally. So al-dalal is more metaphysical, tashqa is more physical. You would have, as in, you wouldn't have to really lead a hard life. You know, even, you know, I don't know about the other Arab countries. Like in Egypt, if someone really does labor work, we call him sha'yan. He lives a really hard life, a labor life, the manual work. That is, sometimes people do manual work that really get them exhausted. We often take these people as signs of leading a difficult or a hard life. Allah says, of course, this doesn't say that the people who do those hard jobs up to this moment, we can't live without those people, by the way. But you know, when someone does a hard job, but they don't get the equivalent of it in terms of whether it pays off or not. So sometimes you do a lot of hard work, but it doesn't pay off. So Allah says this is not the case with someone who is siding with Allah. They will have a physical and a metaphysical fulfillment. And yes, absolutely, the Quran says this is not just about Adam, but us all. Absolutely. Jiva.
I found this interesting because I think it has two faces to it. One is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will immediately sort of take away sight. So why did you not see? Signs are out there. You just have to see. You don't have to like do too much. You just have to see them. They're right there. Another one I think which I think struck harder was sight is such a blessing that we often take for granted. I think it's possibly the easiest thing to overlook because it's, you open your eyes and you wake up and you have it, and then you go to bed and it's always there.
Yeah.
But when it's taken away, there's this sort of horrifying image that's drawn that the world can go dark. And I think that sort of drawing that image and then sort of taking it to people who can't see in this world and understanding that their life, there is this element of their life is also challenging. And
That's a beautiful image.
sort of linking these different facets to understand how it is a big challenge for the people here, but imagine in the hereafter when you haven't seen those signs, even though you were sighted, and now your sight is taken away as a punishment and there's eternal doom ahead. I think that would be a very harsh image that's portrayed.
Absolutely. I mean, the Quran vividly confirms what you're saying. The Quran speaks of two types of eyes: the eye of the sight and the eye of the insight. We often say, you know, give me what is your insight. Oh, this comes from it's the internal one, the inner eye, or the internal eye, and then the outer eye, or the external eye, the eye of the sight. The Quran links both. Why does the Quran link both? Because according to the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us with so many signs across the world in a way that is unbelievable. You know, there is this verse in Surat Yusuf that says, وَكَأَيٍّ مِّنْ آيَةٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَمُرُّونَ عَلَيْهَا وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. So the Quran says the signs are there, you are passing by them. It's not like you are rested in a specific place and they pass by you. No, you actually pass by them. So that means they are everywhere. It's either you open your eyes or you don't. Otherwise they exist. So if you don't, so that the Quran draws a good link between the sight and the insight. If you don't open the eye of the sight, the eye of the insight gets blocked, and it goes both ways. And that's why you get resurrected as one gets resurrected as blind in the hereafter as a result of neglecting this. And so the eye of the sight is very powerful. You know, when you see something, and that's why, you know, today's world, that the world of you know, at some point people would mainly, you know, especially with pre-modern societies, much of the tradition was based on orality, like transmission through the ears. Modern societies, mostly, it's a culture of the eye. So Greenland societies, they call it ثقافة السمع, the culture of the ear. There's much listening in so many ways. How do people, there is always this discussion of the written culture and the oral culture. The humanities move from the oral culture into the written culture. The oral culture is more to do with the ears, and the written culture is more to do with the eyes. You see something, and even more vividly now today's life, with videos, with all the devices that we've developed. It shows that we have a lot to take in, and that definitely impacts the eye of the inside. So you really have to feed your eyes with the right stuff. Otherwise, that definitely does something to the inside, to the eye of the inside. And it's not easy to really keep your outer eye away from the wrong stuff. Because, and once it gets into the outer eye, it easily seeps into the inner eye. And you don't easily get rid of it. Wallahi. So you have to really be cautious with the connection between the eye and the soul is unbelievable. Ibn Sina, in one of his sentences, if I'm not misquoting him, he says, وَالْعَيْنُ هِيَ الْجُزْءُ الْمَرْئِيُّ مِنَ الرُّوحِ. That the eye is the visible side of the soul. When someone is talking to you, you can tell from their eyes whether they are really happy, they are unhappy, they believe you, they don't believe you. The eye says a lot. So the connection between the side and the inside is absolutely unbelievable. Arani,
I just thought it was like the symbol of shame or guilt that comes with doing something that when you disobey God, and then the word conscious of their nakedness, like when they realize, they immediately go to cover themselves. But before that, it's almost as if they're not conscious. And then also I found it interesting how in the garden you will never go hungry, feel naked is the translation I have. I'm just trying to understand, is it like to do with feeling like you will never feel naked in this place? Is that to do with dignity, or what is the nakedness? It's just a thought, it's
thank you so much. This sentence is so replete with meanings. It's not easy to really, it's not just a private parts thing. I think it has a lot more to it. So it should. It addresses both ways. The external side of things. The Quran speaks of two types of garments. The outer garment. يا بني آدم قد أنزلنا عليكم لباسا يواري سوآتكم وريشا. So we've given you the outer garment. That is the clothes that we showed you how to dress and how to, tailor and this and that. And then he says, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى. But there is the inner garment. That is the one of taqwa, the one of consciousness, the one of the mindfulness of Allah. Sometimes we focus too much on the external one, forgetting the internal one, the internal garment. How many of us think of taqwa as the internal garment? And the Quran actually calls it the internal garment. لِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. The one from the inside needs to really be mindful of Allah. But at the very same time, the Quran speaks of the outer garment as well. They both go hand in hand. So they both became conscious about the internal one first. What did we do? We were asked to keep away from this, but we did not really listen. Immediately they realized that this internal thing had external consequences. Now that we see our private parts are becoming visible to us, we weren't aware of them before. So that shows how our spiritual states, have external manifestations and external consequences to them. Nothing, there is no, as it says, such a thing as free lunch. So you do something, you see the consequences of it. But the good thing is, that's a very hopeful passage, even though I know the tone is somehow a little arresting. But yet, there is a lot of hope in it as well. We see Adam alayhi salam repenting. Allah says, actually it says, Allah is the one that opened the door to Adam to repent. That how much hope we should really harbor about Allah. He opens the door to Adam because He knows there is goodness in him. Because of this window that Allah has opened for Adam, Adam comes back. So there is much hope in this. But yeah, that's the idea of badat lahum sawatuhum.
I also wanted to add, it's like once you've done this, you're bare, you're completely bare in front of God, and then He still accepts you for like you, as in like you're how do I say it? Like not metaphorically naked in front of God is what I'm trying to say, and He still accepts you.
Yeah, absolutely,
Accepts your repentance
absolutely.
and
I mean, it is absolutely naked in a sense. You see, Allah, one of Allah's names is As-Sitir or As-Sitar, and it's difficult to translate. But it's the one who wouldn't want to expose people. So He wants you to keep to keep you in good light. But when you make a mistake and you go back to Him, He covers you up, and that's why we say that, we have one of the most famous statements: "Inna Allah yughayyiru wa la yu'ayyir." But the people, وَلَكِنَّ النَّاسَ يُعَيِّرُونَ وَلَا يُغَيِّرُونَ. Allah changes people, He transforms them, but He doesn't, He doesn't always remind them of the past. You've done this, you've done that, right? But with the people, they actually do the opposite. Even if you made some mistakes or whatever, you become a good person, people will always remind you of us. Do you remember you were this, you were that? And they can do nothing about this transformation. And that's literally a sitir. One who wants you to always look good and be in good shape, spiritually, physically, in every way. And there is in today's life, there is this sort of virus that literally in people's minds, like this urge to expose people. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? Social media, easily, the easiest that we can do. Of course, Allah doesn't like that. There is much to be said about this sentence, badat lahum sawatuhum. I keep going back to it myself, but that's why clothing in Islam has an intrinsic value to it. It's not for no reason that Muslims, either Muslim men, and even more centrally, Muslim women, they dress in specific ways. It's not for no reason. It's because they believe in certain things. These are not extrinsic things or stuff that are of no value or something. No, it just reflects we believe in things from the inside. So there is this culture. That's why Allah again links both the internal garment and the external garment. And I don't think we reflect much on this really. Whenever you get asked, well, what is the Muslim culture of dress? The immediate answer, Muslim women have to wear this, Muslim men have to wear that. Okay, how often do we pose and ask, what is the Islamic philosophy of garment? And these are Quranic based things. The Quran says, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. The Quran calls al-taqwa a type of garment. So if you ever to explain what is the Muslim philosophy of dress, what is the code of dress in Islam, you need to really pause and begin with what Allah began with. It says, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. And if you start from the inside out, that makes it a lot more meaningful. We actually do the complete opposite. We begin from the outside, I have to dress in this way for me to feel in a specific way or something, which often ends up with a sense of superiority that Allah does not like. But if it goes the other way around, beginning from the inside, I believe in this, I believe in that, and therefore I dress in this way. That's libasul taqwa. That's what Allah says, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. Even the inner garment is more important than the outer one. So if you fix the outer one, but you haven't fixed the inner one, you usually get the point. So it's always the inside that matters most. And the outside is meant to be a manifestation of the inside, not the other way around.
It's like the verse about in the garden you will never go hungry, feel naked, be thirsty, or suffer from the heat of the sun. Like it's like a human need to be like an essential, like water or food, to be clothed. Is that to do like what is that? Like, can you share your thoughts on this? Because is it to do with like? Yeah, I don't know what it's.
I mean, do you mean that Islam, does the Quran take clothing as one of the basic needs of humans? Is this the question?
It's like, why is it so high? Like, is it to do with dignity? Is that what it is?
Oh, definitely.
Is there any more dimensions to this?
I mean, those in the Quran says to Adam you are guaranteed, to Adam and Hawa you are guaranteed these things. إِنَّ لَكَ أَلَّا تَجُوعَ فِيهَا وَلَا تَعْرَى. One is to do with food, you will never go hungry. وَلَا تَعْرَى. And in terms of the dress, as we said, or the garment, it's not just the external but also the internal. وَأَنَّكَ لَا تَضْمَأُ فِيهَا وَلَا تَضْحَى. The same thing to do with al-dama, as in thirst. Spiritual thirst as well as physical thirst. وَلَا تَسْقَى. You're not going to do hard work. There is no value. So it's part of the human, again, the human fulfillment. Food, drink, clothing, internal and external. Surely.
Thank you.
Ayham, did you say كذلك أتتك آياتنا?
I found this verse interesting because I understood it to be saying the following: كذلك أتتك آياتنا فقبلتها فنسيتها. In other words, it speaks to someone who already accepted and someone who believed in these verses and signs, and he's forgotten them. This is because I think this following verse confirms that, and it speaks about another type, someone who in fact didn't believe in it in the first place. So the first one must be someone who accepted it and then chose to forget. And I think it is interesting because it equates between both types: someone who first accepted the message or accepted it and believed in the verses, and someone who and forgot it, and someone who never believed in it and asraf walam yu'min bi ayati rabbih. I found that it is somewhat interesting that despite someone's history of believing in verses and so on, that does not mean anything, because that's equal to someone who never believed it in the first place.
But do you realize this can also equate Adam with Iblis?
I thought Adam responded another way, because Adam then repented. So we can say there are three people: Adam, the person who has been told كذلك أتتك آياتنا فنسيتها, and a third person who's been told من أسرف ولم يؤمن بآيات ربه.
So you're saying the difference is to do with the response in the first place. Okay, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Yes, that's actually a deep observation really. How the Quran equates كذلك أتتك آياتنا فنسيتها. In the same way, you received our verses, but you ignored them or you forgot them. وكذلك اليوم, so today, similarly, you're going to be forgotten. In the same way, we do the same with those who never believed in it to begin with. Interesting. So the difference becomes one of response. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, my own insight has to do with this as well. The idea of the nasiya. Again, speaking of the human condition, one of the things about the human condition or the human nature is, again, we tend to forget. Al-insan, linguistically, are two interpretations of it. They are not mutually exclusive, it can be both, actually. One, it comes from nisyan, as in insan comes from human being comes from, in Arabic, comes from the verb to forget. To become an insan is to forget. The other interpretation says it actually comes from uns, as in it's the being that asks for intimacy with other people, that finds intimacy in encountering other people. We're not mutawahishun, you can't live on your own. You always find meaning in communicating with people and living with people, and that's so true about us. It goes, I mean, it's both interpretations are absolutely valid. But the verb nasiya itself in Arabic, can mean to forget, but also can mean to just ignore, and both are possible interpretations. We see this with Adam, and that and it does speak to what you mentioned, as in the Quran says that Adam's mistake or Adam's lapse is different from that of Iblis. عهدنا إلى آدم, we entrusted Adam with something, فنسي, he forgot. ولم نجد له عزما, and we did not find him, to be with strong resolve or strong determination. Also, there is another, you can read in this verse as it fits, saying ولم نجد له عزما, he was not determined to disobey Allah. So that's another possible reading of it. But to me, it's more to do with, actually, I take the other interpretation as a more contextual. He was not resolved in terms of his obedience of Allah in this, because he just forgot. And that speaks again of the human condition, When we forget something, this verse is saying a lot in terms of spiritual transformation and even physical transformation and material transformation, as in the Quran does not demonize forgetfulness. It recognizes that this is a human thing. But at the very same time, it does not legitimize it. The Quran does not legitimize forgetfulness, or does not justify forgetfulness. As in, we often speak of the difference between understanding something and justifying something. Adam is saying, I forgot. Allah would say, I understand. I know you did not, when you disobeyed, you didn't really reject my commandment, you just forgot. Right? This is different from Iblis, who rejected. So someone who forgot and someone who rejected. So that nisyan, that forgetfulness, places Adam a.s. in a different category. But in the very same time, if someone comes to you and says, someone who was, asked or was tasked with something, but they didn't do it, and they come to you and they say, I forgot. What's your reaction to this? How do you react to someone who committed himself to something, and they come to you and say, I forgot? I'm asking you like a serious question. In your real life, day-to-day conversation, day-to-day happenings, if someone comes to you, you expect them to do a specific thing and say, Wallahi, I forgot. What does that say? How do you feel? Do you accept this as a good response, or you think, what do you make of it?
I'd get annoyed, and I think they weren't serious when they made the commitment to begin with.
So So they weren't serious. They weren't committed.
Yeah, they weren't committed to begin with if you could forget and
Because
forgive.
exactly, if they were committed, they wouldn't have forgotten to begin with. Literally. And it really it agitates me when someone comes to me like forgot. I mean, at least it shows the care. They didn't say I'm not gonna do it. They said, we forgot. I forgot. I'm still willing to do it. Maybe I wasn't, but it just shows a negative thing, but it's a positive thing as well. I'm not rejecting what you said. I'm not saying I'm not gonna do it. I will do it, but forgive me that I wasn't committed enough. I had a teacher when we were kids, just to emphasize how this is how commitment matters, especially to do with homework. So whenever you don't do your homework, you come back to the teacher. I forgot to do my homework. His immediate answer would be, "Did you forget to eat? Did you forget to drink?" And then it just immediately comes up to your mind, like, how do I only forget the homework? I've never forgotten to eat, never forgotten to drink, because it's part of me. I'm so engaged with it. A teacher would expect you to really be conscious of the tasks you are committed to. And come on, we know this for a fact. If you are really committed to something, you will never use forgetfulness as an excuse. So it just speaks of it's a question of commitment. So is it a negative thing? I think it's half negative, half positive. It just shows sincerity. I'm still willing. I'm not rejecting. Iblis rejected. Adam did not reject. He just forgot. What does it say about him? He wasn't committed enough. As simple as that. So how do we cultivate a culture of azm then? The Quran says he forgot, and we found him lacking in commitment. He was not committed enough. The question would be, how do I become more committed? How do I become more consistent and more constant? The surah mentions, the passage actually mentions. It mentions that the nisyan is part of our relationship with the Quran. If you don't build an immediate and a strong commitment with the Quran, a strong relationship with the Quran, you become less committed in your life. It clearly states at the end of the passage, كَذَلِكَ أَتَتْكَ آيَاتُنَا فَنَسِيتَهَا. Our revelation came to you, but you weren't committed enough. The reverse understanding, if you've taken them seriously, you would have become more committed. So your relationship with the Quran determines actually your professional commitment. Why does the Quran have the capacity to do that to us? It's mainly because it acts, because of this idea of your mind. The origin of this word, by the way, is re-mind. As if you are re-minding something. Sometimes we, out of habit, we keep doing something that you forget. Why do I do it? It just becomes more of a habit, right? It comes this to make you revisit this. The function of the Quran is that it literally revalues things in your eyes, reminds you of what is valuable, what should be compromised, what should be prioritized. And that they call it perennial philosophy, as in Hikmah al-Khalida, they call it. They say al-ilmu tadhakkur wa jahlu nisyan. That knowledge is remembrance. When you remember, it's about remembrance. And while jahlu nisyan, and ignorance, is just about forgetfulness. One other thing that I really, shall we close with this? Perhaps. idea of, when Iblis was trying to convince and to tempt Adam, I think this is quite relevant to us in our lives today. Life brings us a lot of opportunities. And when we are young, we tend to really look at every opportunity as a golden opportunity. I need to do this, and it's maybe the only one, and you take things blindly. I think these verses are inviting us to really be a little bit more cautious with things that come across as opportunities. Maybe they carry something else. They carry, harmful consequences to this. Here we have Adam alayhi salam is being promised with apparently good opportunities. Did he consider the consequences? One could ask, how on earth Adam did not think of the consequences? The Quran is silent on this. Did he have a very strong urge that said, just do it, forget about it? Did he have this sort of tension? Should I do, should I don't do? Oh, he just completely forgot and he just jumped and latched onto that opportunity. Either way, it's asking us to really, whenever there is an opportunity that poses itself to you, you need to really pause and ask yourself, if I go ahead with this, what am I losing? What am I gaining? What are my priorities? What should I prioritize? What should I compromise? And in English we say, not everything that glitters is gold. I think this is so real here. Adam alayhi salam is being promised with something that glitters, but in reality it is not. So I do believe there is much to be gained in this. We live this. And I think Iblis played it in a very cunning way, really. So the idea of opportunities has a deep lesson to us. But again, tawbah is a big thing, the big concept in Islam, opens doors. And the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always says, actually, you could be secure in a better place before sometimes, I could ask this question, like, if you may think, or if you may share a time in your life when making a mistake, when you learned more from a mistake, from a failure, than from a success. I think we can easily find them. We can easily find situations where we just, alhamdulillah, I made this mistake, I learned that. Right? So, tawbah just says, it literally opens doors. That's pretty much everything. I don't think we'll have the time to do that, but I was thinking if we can apply one additional bit to this session, as in, but that will add some pressure. Already there is pressure, I feel it in people. If I could ask, what is one insight that I'd be leaving with today? One thing that I haven't thought of, I have thought of, but I forgot in the past. Maybe something I need to revisit or relook. If this has taken us another half an hour, forget about it. If it's something that's so present in your mind, from my side, I think this passage and our reflection on it just reminded me of the human condition and Allah's mercy upon us. How Allah's knowledge of us and our responses really matters. So that human condition thing, that for me, I would leave with it. If in one sentence you can share something like that, yes, please.
The two-dimensionality of almost everything in Islam, from sight and eyesight, garments, يضل ولا يشقى, أو لا يضل ولا يشقى. That because fundamentally we're made out of a physical body and a soul, Islam does not disregard either, but treat both with
Beautiful,
understanding.
beautiful. The two-dimensionality, but in the very same time, the intertwined nature of this dimension. The Quran does not treat them as two separate things. They influence each other. Absolutely, absolutely. Other insights? Okay, perhaps we should stick to the old way then.
I was going to say
Yes, please.
the link between remembering and like you forgetting is to do with your commitment,
Yeah.
and then how the commitment is the Quran.
Yeah.
How I need to do
That's
better.
true. That's true. It's so true. On purpose, I mentioned this. On purpose. You know, because often again is lean here. You know, when she is not committed enough to the Quran task, she would often say, "I forgot." And to me, it just means nothing. Like it just. And I would ask the same question that my teacher would ask me. It's so true, because there are other things that she would never forget. Why just? I mean, I'm not sure she's doing an amazing job. Just in case she gets to listen to this in the future, she's doing an amazing job. She'd hate me. What's again the human condition? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Inshallah, we'll meet up next week. Thank you so much.